Assalamu alaikum. Viewers, welcome to the Business Hour on the ZMC network. The Business Hour will be a weekly program focusing on local businesses, business issues, and bringing in esteemed personalities from the business world to answer your questions. Please do follow us on our social media channels. We are on Instagram at the hashtag ZMC Network. We are on Facebook with our Facebook page ZMC Network, and we are on Twitter with the hashtag ZMC Network. The show will consist of a local business roundup and business news, and as I said previously, we'll be bringing in esteemed guests from the business world to answer your questions. Myself, I'm your host, Abid Khan, businessman from Birmingham. The motto for the channel is bringing communities together. Our guest today, we are very honored to have Mr. Sarfraz Ali, who is the CEO of Pathway Group, who will be sharing his knowledge and expertise with us. So, Mr. Sarfraz, thank you very much for coming.
Abid, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Absolute pleasure having you here today.
Absolutely, thank you so much.
I must confess, as somebody who's been a mentee to yourself, somebody who's followed you for a very, very long time and had the privilege of learning a lot from you. It's an absolute honor to have you here today. Thank you very much.
It's my privilege, honestly, Abid. And when you reached out to me, first thing I said is congratulations to yourself in terms of launching this, and also to ZMC platform for giving you the platform and giving the community a platform. Anything to do with well-being, physical, mental, economic well-being should be encouraged. And again, congratulations to you and wish you well on your journey.
Fantastic. So ZMC, the network, it's about bringing communities together. It's about tackling local issues. It's about what's happening with Birmingham, within our region, whether it be political, whether it be business. And it's a great platform, and I congratulate the organisation for establishing this channel and allowing us a platform to be able to do this. The Business Hour, I think it's very important, particularly with the current climate within industry, within business. And our viewers are in business, will be in business, will be wanting to go into business, and some insights from people like yourselves who've been in the business world for a very long time and achieved great things. I think it'd be very valuable. So thank you very much. So if we just start with a brief insight into Mr. Sarfraz, the history of Mr. Sarfraz, where it all began. Are you a local lad? Where are you from? And what was the motivation or the inspiration to start your business?
Again, thank you so much, Abid. Just a little bit of background to myself, if you may. I mean, I'll keep it very short in that respect. I mean, I'm in my late 40s.
You don't look it.
Well, born and bred in Birmingham. My father came into the country in late 1950s. Went back to Pakistan, came back, I was born in the early 70s. First child. Father was in sort of a furnace factory in Birmingham in Witton. I did that all his life and encouraged us to get into education. That's also Islamic education as well as schooling and so forth. So most of my early childhood I spent in both camps really. Learnt about the Islam Deen, learnt Urdu, and again focused on as much as I can in terms of O levels and those sort of things back in the day.
Which are currently known as GCSEs.
GCSEs, yeah, GCSEs. I managed to do a degree in banking and financial services at the time. Birmingham Polytechnic, University of Central England, at a later stage, and then really went into the whole sort of banking profession, financial services profession. It was well regarded at the time in terms of it was a professional career. But I did fail in my GCSEs, to be frank with. I mean, I did. I was trying to get the balance right between mosque and also schooling and so forth, and in the end I did fail miserably in GCSEs, mainly got D's and E's. It was a shock to my father, it was a massive shock to me, because I thought I thought I scraped through, and then really I buckled down and really got back into the whole education field, and I thought, you know what, this is an opportunity, it's a lost opportunity, and I'm grateful for my father for allowing me the space, really, because there's quite a few of our relatives that at the age of 15, 16 really went into factories and sort of retailing and jobs and other sort of things.
Okay.
And I was given a bit of space to actually find my way, and that really helped me. In terms of mentors and supporters, there wasn't really anybody. I mean, obviously my father and family encouraged me, but there wasn't really anybody that I could go to. And then I found the fact that I got to a position in terms of my career where I just felt a void, a gap. I didn't feel, I didn't feel fulfillment, and I felt there was a little bit of a glass ceiling in terms of growth, development, and progression.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I thought I wasn't looking at business as something that I wanted to do. So there's a lot of people talk about I always wanted to get into business. For me, it was about profession. Mm-hmm. And getting into a career.
Was that motivated by parenting, or was that your personal?
I mean, in our sort of immediate family, there wasn't really anybody who was a business person. Okay. And again, if you look, I mean, again, talking from relatives and family, we sort of looked up to anybody who was educated and anybody who is a professional, as opposed to somebody who is a business person or an entrepreneur. I mean, the word entrepreneur wasn't around, but anybody who's a business person wasn't really on my radar. It was about, professional people. Yes. It's about education. This person's an academic. He's a professor at a sort of a college or a university. This person is an ulama, or this person is Hafiz Quran, or this person is a professional, whether it's an accountant, solicitors, all those sort of things. And that's what I sort of looked up to and thought, that's something that I want to do. And I personally pursued the financial services, banking, and even for me, banking was a profession. You
mentioned the word entrepreneur wasn't around at that time. So in your particular era, in terms of self-employment and people becoming business owners the way they are today, was that something that wasn't encouraged, or?
I think again, the business people that I knew, most of them discouraged others to follow their paths. And all of them encouraged education, academic route. So even if it's a business person, the first thing they would say is business is not a good thing. Why waste your time and so forth. And we've done this because of necessity. And for me, I've sort of felt that all the way through. And it wasn't a case of, yes, you need to get into this, and you need to make your own, and there's a whole area of growth there. Most of them, nearly everybody that I spoke to at the time, and again talking from a personal experience, there was no encouragement at all. I was sitting in a room not long back, and even a very successful business family, and it's really discouraged. I mean, from the father to the daughter to the son, and they're all encouraging them to go down the academic route and find their own way.
Professionals.
Find their own way,
yes. As
opposed to join the family business or start their own business, and I think that's still, in my opinion, still true today. All that's happened is there's been a lot more information, a lot more awareness, not just in terms of television programs, but also in terms of YouTube channels and seeing other people. There's a lot more noise. There's a lot more awareness as well. There's definitely a lot more awareness, and then people are thinking business is a path to earn big bucks, and they're going in for that reason. So you've got youngsters now thinking, I'm not going to waste my time following the academic route.
Yes.
I'm going to go in and
self-employment
and make it my own, because I can set up a unicorn, I can become a millionaire, a billionaire,
yes.
All of this sort of thing. And
so we'll go on to that a bit later on. So you joined the financial services and went into the mortgage industry.
Yeah.
What happened?
So before I got into mortgages, I was in compliance. I was more a back office person,
Okay.
and I thought, again, dealing with paperwork, dealing with compliance, training financial services, training other mortgage individuals, mortgage professionals, and there were, and at the time, the industry had a very bad PR, not because of the banking crisis. This is prior to that, mainly because of a lot of mis-selling.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of mis-selling involved. Pensions mis-selling. Endowments mis-selling. There's a lot of mis-selling, and they were trying to professionalize the industry.
Regulated.
And regulated, and again, more qualifications came in, standards came in,
Yes.
and there's a lot more training involved. And so I from a compliance background, started becoming a bit of a trainer, and for me that was definitely out of my comfort zone. I'm a very shy guy now, but I was even more introvert and shy, and for me to deliver a training, even in a subject matter that I knew very well, was quite difficult. But I did that. I did that for a few years,
Yes.
and then I thought there's an opportunity here in terms of actually, branching out myself as well, and which is where I went into the financial services sector.
Okay.
And I became a finance broker, a mortgage broker. And this is, I think, the first time I met with yourself, really, when you were running your enterprise. That I was looking for people that I could talk to.
That was back in 2007
Yeah.
some point. Yes.
Yeah, it was the
2007.
first time we met, and again looking for people who can sort of give me leads,
Collaborations.
and work in partnership with people. And assist their business to sort of offer additional services.
Yes.
So that's really how I sort of differentiated myself. Rather than going directly to the public, I thought let me work with estate agents,
Great
with
partnerships
with individuals who've got a need, and I can collaborate with them, work with them, and they can offer additional services. So I did that for a few years, and you get to a point where you feel that what's the next stage? How do I go on? And I also felt very overworked, very pressured, and to a certain level, I just got out of the marketplace just before the crash, and because I was looking at going into a different business
sector. Yes.
and
That was about 2009 time.
So I was involved with the domiciliary care sector. So this is a sector that I have no experience with, no knowledge of, no real understanding of, and all it was research based.
Okay.
So I was thinking in terms of what is a business that's going to grow from where it was to the next 20 years, 30 years, and so forth, and where there's opportunity. So not necessarily what matched my skill set initially, but what are the research saying, what the mental reports are saying, what the demographics are saying.
Yes.
And those mainly spoke about an aging community. He also spoke about deregulation.
Mm-hmm.
It mentioned the fact that the governments wanted to work with the private sector, and actually from a social services perspective wanted to outsource. And again, I sort of researched the whole public sector, the government sector, G-business.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, you know what, if I can specialise in working with government departments, not necessarily local authorities, but we can become a supplier to government, and actually do the work that they need to do as part of their public duty, and we can do it better and cheaper than them trying to do themselves.
Okay.
So that was our first sort of foray into a sector, which was
from mortgage broking to
completely.
domiciliary
That's
care,
right. Yeah,
totally different.
Yeah, just about research. Just about getting your head down, researching is understanding it, and research wasn't that easy to do. It wasn't like you can go on
Google would have been limited them days.
Yeah, very limited, and
Yes.
and a lot of the research was central library based. It was research library based, and it was also going into places like London, the British Library there, and actually getting periodicals, getting information from there. And again, it wasn't that easy. And it's also going back into past newspapers, getting newspaper cuttings and research.
So to all the youngsters out there was an era before Google existed.
Yeah.
And you done your research in that era.
Yeah. It's also interviewing, meeting people, and building a network. Again, you couldn't just find and connect with somebody on LinkedIn. You had to go out and write letters. So we wrote quite a few letters. Some people responded, and really went and and built some contacts and connections, and and some people are good enough to give their time and encourage you and say, actually, go this particular route or this particular route, or give you a little bit of advice. So bearing in mind, I said, I wasn't from a social services background, no understanding of the health, that marketplace, and we thought this is what we want to do. Again, when you're talking to local authorities and you're talking to social services or any government, they ask you for your background and so forth. And we didn't have that, but we had enough knowledge and understanding and research, and we could say, we've met certain people and spoken to certain people.
When you say we, was it just yourself, or was
it myself and two other individuals? So we were all working together. And we all had different aspirations in terms of where we were, and bearing in mind we weren't really youngsters. I mean, we were already sort of hitting mid-30s, and felt that we were still stuck in a bit of a rut, and wanted to sort of look at other ways of growing.
Okay.
And partly, I mean, if my career it did take off, I may not have. But I felt that there's an element of there was a limitation, and my other partners felt that there's a limitation, and that glass ceiling was there, and I felt that there's a number of opportunities where I didn't get the promotion, or I didn't get the opportunity, or I didn't get the pay rise, and we used to do performance development plans, PDPs, and I missed out on a number of pay rises or opportunities for growth, and you get a little bit frustrated. I mean, initially you start thinking,
do you feel that may have been your inspiration to change sector or to do something different?
For me, it was that frustration, and frustration, the fact that I could do more, and I thought, if I've done enough talking now, let me take the plunge. And partly, as I said, because I had a bit of savings, not a huge amount, I thought, this allows me the opportunity. I mean, I've been talking about doing something else for 3 or 4 years, and I thought, we're talking the talk. We need to actually do the walk, and we need to start doing something. And at the last sort of frustration where the job offer wasn't there, and I felt that the person who got it wasn't actually somebody who had the right experience or the knowledge or the skills to take that role on. And I thought, and again, I felt that I was the better candidate. I thought that was, for me, that was it. So I left that, and I thought, this is an opportunity. So that frustration really built up, and looking back on it, it's maybe now I'm probably a little bit more calmer in my approach, but I think I was in a position where I thought I need to do it, and if it's not going to happen now, then nothing's going to change. So something had to change for me to change.
That defeat.
Yeah, it was a failure, wasn't it? And I, at the time, my prayers were all about getting that promotion, and it was all about getting that opportunity, and the fact that I didn't get it was actually a better thing for me, and it's not. It was meant to be. I say that now, it was meant to be. But if I had my way, my plans, it was all about getting that promotion. It was all about getting that job, and it's all about getting the next sort of grade. We had a grading system, so for me it was that grade 5. I wanted to jump to the next grade, and because I didn't get that, and I felt I felt really down, and really sort of a complete failure. Even though there was success in my life, I felt a real failure. And then I thought, this negative energy that I've got, stop feeling sorry for myself, stop feeling the fact that I'm a victim here, and take things in your own control. And rather than me handing my notice in like a spoiled sort of individual, I thought, what, let me take my time now, let me reflect on this, let's not make a knee-jerk reaction. I thought, let's do some planning. So initially the research was done part-time, weekends, evenings, wherever possible, wherever I could take my days off and so forth. And long story short, I went into the marketplace, started that off, and we had enough sort of financials, just to sort of keep the wolves from the door for a year and a half. And I thought, hopefully that's enough time for the business to break even, and we can at least get our petrol money effectively is the term that I used to, as long as we can get our petrol money out of the business in,
as long as you make ends meet.
In a year and a half time, then that's fine.
Yeah.
And you get used to living on the means that you have, the budgets that you have, and you try and scrimp and save whatever possible. And that's for us. It wasn't about getting loans or trying to get finance or find a funder out there or investor out there. We did it ourselves, and for me that was the way. That was the only way that I knew. And I thought,
so you've come out of financial services. You've investigated the domiciliary care industry,
the home care services,
and the home care industry.
Yeah.
What happens next?
So we set up this business, and we knocked on a few doors, and Commentary Social Services gave us an opportunity, specifically to target the what was called the BME market, now generally known as BAME. So the Black minority, ethnic minority market, particularly looking after the Asian sort of community. Who
was that a tendering process, or
that was the tendering process? That was the tendering process. They have to go through their processes, and there was a slight niche in that marketplace, and we took our time. We wrote a good tender. And we honed our skills, our writing skills, in terms of how do you actually
just to touch upon that. There's a lot of businesses out there who need to go through the tendering process.
Yeah.
But I think they're very fearful of actually writing the tender or presenting it in a manner which may be even considered.
Yeah.
How did you challenge that? You came from a financial background.
Yeah.
How did you tackle that? How did you create your tenders, or what resource did you use to get them tenders through?
Yeah. So again, with the same with proposals. Most of us have to write business proposals now, and even when you're meeting a client and anybody, you send a proposal across. So whether it's a tender or it's a proposal, most of us now have to submit something as a formal offer,
yes.
And it's an offer process. For us, it was the same thing. It's understanding the rules of the game, understanding how it works in terms of scoring, and doing the research. And once you've done the research, and there's a lot of it is about differentiation. It's about added value. It's about quality.
Okay.
And how do you actually define that? And what you've got to do is go really deep. And it's easy to say the words, but it's actually moving away from just telling somebody, but to actually show and demonstrate,
and documenting it.
And a lot of that is about processes, but it's about defining that a little bit more. I can if I meet yourself, you can say we're a quality provider with this, with that. But how do you actually get the credibility?
Yes.
And credibility, and how do you build that trust?
Yes.
Nobody wants to take a risk. And in government or even private sector, when you're looking at at any procurement or buying process, we're very risk averse. Nobody likes to take unnecessary risks with anybody, whether it's the supplier.
Just stop you right there. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live in conversation with Sarfraz Ali, the CEO of Pathway Group. We would encourage you to, if you have any questions, please ask them on our Facebook live feed. Follow us on Instagram and on Twitter. We have Mr. Sarfraz Ali live in the studio. If you have any questions about your business, about your personal growth, about your professional growth, we would encourage you to ask them on our Facebook live feed. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no, sorry about that. So from my perspective, it's really now understanding. It's about, rather than telling somebody, be able to show.
Yes.
And this is where businesses struggle. It's easy to say the words, but how do you actually show, demonstrate? And I think that's the thing, that people, even in terms of management, when you're talking to people and talking to individuals, it's about them showing. Okay. And I think people sometimes lack that. Yes. They lack the ability to document their thoughts, their processes.
Okay.
And
so you've got the tender with the
Commentary, yeah.
And that's in the care sector.
Yeah.
And then you go on to apprenticeships.
Yeah, well, so I did that for 3 years, and myself and the other two partners, and we did that for 3 years, and we made a lot of mistakes. I mean, you know, in terms of organisation chart, who's responsible for that. Also, to a certain level, you know, we were friends and colleagues, but you know, now going into business together, and there's an element of change there in terms of the relationship, and you get to know somebody, you know, when you do business or when you're traveling and so forth, and you know, you don't really get to know somebody just by being colleagues or friends.
Yes.
And in that relationship then is, you know, you go to a deeper level, and we had a number of issues in terms of how our relationship works, who does what, who's responsible for that, and you play to your strengths.
Yes.
And we all had different strengths to a certain level, and we looked at, you know, documenting a real structure within the business, who's responsible for that. And what you find is that people generally, when they do a structure, it's just there in name, but in reality, but that's right. Yes. And then, but those boundaries aren't there.
Yeah. And
what we found was that actually we had a structure, but it was just there. And we saw, you know what, we need to actually put that in practice now.
Yes.
And went through that process. Found the business very, very difficult. It was 24 hours, 7 days a week. You know, we were in an environment where you know, people do let you down. It's a people business, and you're dealing with people's lives. It is about understanding what we're getting into, and for me, it got a bit too much, and I suffered some health issues. Mm-hmm. And for me, for myself, I had an angina attack, and I was very close to having a full-blown heart attack. And this is, you know, mid-30s, you know, and for that was a massive shock. I was in hospital for a little while, and that was a reckoner. I mean, I think I took my health, you know, I didn't take it serious at all, and it was again pushing the boundaries in terms of the, you know, proving to ourselves and proving to the social services that, you know, we were a good safe pair of hands, and that was a massive shock. And after that, again, an element of sort of realization, and also an element of really looking a little bit more into you know, is this what I want to do, and so forth. And I thought, I need to do something else. And between ourselves, we had that. We had those conversations over a period of 3 or 4 weeks
amongst the partners.
Yeah, within the with our partnership. Yeah, that's right. And I thought there's an opportunity here for us to re-look at this as a business perspective, and re-look at, because the partnership was going well, but as I said, we had our drifts as well. We had our disagreements, and to a certain level, I sort of volunteered to either walk completely away, or stay as a silent partner, or to do something together if they entrusted me to start something new. I didn't know what to start at that time, but I thought, you know, let me again, you know, my skill sets are I can go probably to the marketplace. If I've got the freedom of, you know, a couple of months, let me go and see what I can do, research again, go through that same cycle. Rather than having something completely new, we understand government, we understand G business. Let's see whether we can apply that into something else. So I was in, you know, we had I had involvement in some of the community work and some other community organisations, and from that I looked at the marketplace for workplace training, and getting people into employment. And apprenticeships was sort of an early word that was picked up as well. You know, government comes up with, you know, documents in terms of reviews, how they see the next 5, 10, 15 years, and that's all documented. You know, that's all documented in terms of what they perceive, and from that perspective, we set a pathway with a vision to educate people, train people, vocational based. And whether we can look at that. So I sort of headed that.
So don't you think that was a bit of a bold move, being from a BAME background, being from an Asian background, and the whole perception around apprenticeships and apprentices, and sometimes apprentices being used as potentially cheap labour in the workplace. I know attitudes have changed of late. However, previously it was a form of potentially cheap labour. So in effect, you went against the grain and took a gamble and started up an apprenticeship business.
Yeah. You're exactly right. I mean, there was a sort of a misunderstanding of what an apprenticeship is and what the potentials are, and a lot of people that we're speaking to, they kept on talking about, youth training services, the old sort of program for people who are not academic, and also talking about more hands on deck, having an extra pair of hands, as opposed to really having a key person within the business that they can grow, and it wasn't just within the local community. That was a national issue as well in terms of rebranding apprenticeships. So the government realised that as well. They realised the fact that this is an uphill struggle. It's going to, to change people's minds, going to take a while.
Yes.
It didn't. Again, you're coming back from an era where government was all about encouraging education and training. For them, that meant degrees, and they had a target as well.
Yes.
Back
apprenticeships were possibly frowned upon as well, particularly from the Asian, from the Ben communities.
So again, it was about going into degree education, getting a degree, and people were, and young people as well. They went, they knew their next 5-7 years were all sort of marked out. They're going to go from college, they're going to go to university, and then after that they will go and find themselves in terms of whatever it was, and there was over dominance of graduates. Too many graduates. The job market wasn't there necessarily. Employers were looking for something else. They were looking for experience. They were looking for somebody that can make a difference straight away.
And that's the key thing, isn't it? I mean, there's so many academics out there who've got degrees, but when they apply for jobs, the turning point for them is actually the experience.
Yeah.
So they've got the academic qualifications, but they lack. And I mean, if you haven't worked in an office environment, sometimes even ordering the stationery can be a challenge. And apprenticeships, as you quite rightly say, gives them the opportunity to experience that workplace environment.
It is changing a bit. I mean, it is slightly changing. I mean, universities have realised the fact that they need to get people ready for the workplace.
Yes.
Employers are getting more involved as well. I mean, there's opportunities, there's more work experience, and really true work experience, not necessarily the work experience that maybe you and I have had, but real work experience, and real projects where people are challenged, and you've got to be able to go and show something and do something. It's not just about doing dissertations and
yes.
Writing projects and proposals and so forth. It's about actually results, and a lot of universities are not doing that. And again, I know you're involved with Aston and various other BCU and various other universities as well, and they're a little bit more outward looking now,
yes.
and getting more involved. So there is a change taking place. And I think it is understanding the fact that the world of work needs to be looked at, and you've got the whole.
So you today, you are the CEO of Pathway Group. What does the role of a CEO entail?
I mean, everybody's got their own definition, their own sort of view on what a CEO should do and what they should be focusing on and so forth. And some think that it's just about having an office and a fancy car and turning up and making sure everybody else does the work. So everybody's got their own view and their own version. Yes, I do use the title CEO. I don't shy away from that. But for me, it's really about encouraging the team, building the team. For me, my number one objective is really making sure the fact that we as a business recruit the right people. That's our main thing. How
important is it for businesses to? Because I know from observing you have this habit of hiring people and then supporting their growth, which I feel sometimes maybe some employers or business owners kind of fail to recognise. And you said something earlier on about recognising everybody's key strengths and then developing them. And as some as an individual, I've noticed that in yourself. How important is that to actually grow your business?
I think there's a process there. So first, it's about attracting people.
Yes.
And once you've and at times businesses can't attract the right people. They're not there. They're fishing probably in a different pond, and how they are perceived and how people perceive them may not necessarily attract the people that they are looking for or they need in their business. And that's the first obstacle in terms of how, as a business, you can attract the right talent, the right people.
Yes.
And it's a lot of that is about self-reflection as a business owner. It's easy to say out there nobody wants jobs, or the jobs are out there and nobody applies. You've got to look at yourself in terms of how you're marketing yourself, how your business is perceived, what are the messages that you say you're shouting out about, so that understanding of really how your business is perceived. How would you like to be? How are you selling your business to somebody else? What's in it for them?
Okay.
And that's your starting point, really. What's in it for that individual? What are you offering? So rather than saying, it's easy to interview somebody else and say, well, why do you want this job? But it's really for you to ask those questions yourself. What is it about your business that person would come to? Yeah. And I think if you go through that process of really understanding the whole sort of your purpose of a business, your sort of mission, your values, your culture that you've created, what's important for you, then that is a good starting point. That's a good starting point.
So in terms of marketing your business, you've got Pathway Group, and then you also founded Pathway to Grow. What's the link there? What's the
So for us, it was about building a business community.
Yes.
And Pathway to Grow as an initiative, it was a dream that I had many years ago, 2010-11, started in 2012, and it wasn't funded or anything along those lines. It was an element of how do we, as an organisation and group, give back, but also give back with the purpose that will add value to us as an organisation as well. And my main obstacle, one of the biggest obstacles, was really that particularly the British Asian community wasn't engaged in any type of self-development or growth. So it wasn't just about networking. Networking per se is slightly away from that, but it was about development, learning. It's about growing, and they weren't looking at that at all.
Yes.
In any way, shape or form. And I thought, we've had Business Inc. come and gone. We've had other organisations trying to offer services, and everybody thinks that they're an expert in that particular marketplace. We thought, okay, how do we engage with our audience? How do we build a community? Then from that community we can talk to them about maybe recruitment, maybe apprentices, maybe some of the other things.
So it was a marketing strategy for yourself, but along with that, it was personal development and professional development for the delegates. Now, I first came across yourself in 2013, and at that time I was totally alien to the whole networking concept. And being Asian business owners, we have this. I would say we have a slight chip on our shoulder, a slight ego. How important would you say networking or bringing people together has been for your business yourself and for the delegates that come to the events?
There's many people that I talk to say, we're now in partnership, we're working together, and we got to know about each other through that network that we together have sort of enabled and created. So there's many of those success stories, and for me it wasn't just about linking people together. It was about actually, as you rightly said, for us it was it had to be a win-win. It had to be a win-win from day one. We're spending some money in this, we're investing in this, and there has to be a return on investment. It may not be immediate.
Yes.
It may not be straightforward, but for us to grow our brand, our name in the marketplace, we had to give back as well. And for us, it was an element of what do we do, how do we do it, At the time, networking was there, but there was no free networking concept.
Yes.
It was all commercial, paid for, and there was a lot of investment involved.
And the whole thing about making it free, was it to make it accessible to all?
So we thought, initially we encourage people where at least they can try it out,
Yes.
and see for themselves and see if it's right for them, rather than any long-term commitments. We also felt the fact that we don't want to go in there with a huge sort of upsell or put them into a funnel system, because there's a lot of that going around. And I thought, this for me, yes, this is a lot what the market's doing, but let's not try and follow the marketplace. It's easy for us to put them, use their telephone numbers and email addresses and start marketing them and all the rest of it.
Yes.
But let's create a community where it is a little bit more relaxed, it is different, and it might, on paper, may look a little bit, you might think, this is a crazy idea.
Okay.
And I thought, let's do that crazy idea. Let's see where it is. We've got no pressure from anybody else.
Yeah.
We can do this for a few years and see what the market is and where it was. We were probably a little bit early in 2012, 13. You came down and we changed the concept. We were in hotels before.
Yes.
We thought, what, it doesn't attract everybody. Yes, obviously yourself came and others came, but we weren't able to build the regular.
But it's evolved over time, and it's
then we evolved, and we sort of.
I think the key is that you've changed with the circumstances and changed based on what's been going on around. So it's been. I've witnessed it now for the past 5-6 years, and it's been absolutely incredible. So you start off in the financial services. You go into domiciliary care. You become a workplace training provider. Then you go into networking. So it's been a bit of a career. So the I think the key question that's been on my mind. And I see you've got a lot of social media presence. You've got a lot of YouTube channel, and you've got a few thousand videos on there, and I've been trawling through them over the past few days, and there's some incredible words of wisdom from yourself. The one question that really struck out to me was, do you feel that Asians are entrepreneurial?
Yeah, that was a video it was actually an interview that I had with a colleague, and we were going through that, and this question came out.
Yes.
And again, with that, it was just a matter of recording what the conversation is. It's a free flow conversation, and it took me a little bit by surprise, and I answered it truthfully as I could. I've not gone back to sort of analyze it and understand it, and I gave the answer that I don't think they are, actually. Okay. I don't think they are, and the reason why I said that is very similar to the discussion we had, is that a lot of it is about following an academic professional route, and entrepreneurialism is followed as a secondary course because people have not maybe reached their goals and so forth, and yes, there are success stories, there's no doubt. There's success stories, and there's no doubt that there's many more British Asians who have gone into business, and you've got all these case studies, you've got all of these academic research that's done, but there's still it's a secondary choice as opposed to number one choice, that this is what I want to do, and this is what. Do
you feel that's still relevant today in the modern age where British Asians are going into business more and more? Do you feel that there's still a pressure from potentially the parents to go down the professional route rather than go into self-employment?
I think it's much more widely accepted now that there's an opportunity to start a business. It's a lot easier now to start a business. 12, 24 hours, company's house, and so forth. I mean, there was a time where it would take you a while to even set up a company, and banking is a lot easier. So the facilities, technology, information, a lot of knowledge that's out there, possibly too much knowledge.
Yes.
Too much information,
and can get overwhelmed.
And it's a lot of it's about filtering,
and it's finding the right stuff that works for you,
and finding what's right for you,
yes.
as you said, and finding what fits in with what you're about. And so there's a whole element of really filtering through some of that noise that's out there.
So if you could give 3 pearls of wisdom to any young budding entrepreneurs who are currently thinking about setting up their own business, but maybe not being encouraged by the families, but they've got a business idea and they're thinking about setting that up. Somebody with your experience, quick three pearls of wisdom.
The first thing that I would say is understand your purpose, your reasons why. And understand why you're doing it and what your ultimate goal is and where you're heading. You really do need to understand yourself. I mean, it might sound a little bit silly, but you have to be emotionally savvy. I say play to your strengths. You need to understand your strengths and weaknesses, and really understand the fact that if you starting a business is easy, it's about sustaining, it's about growing, it's about the long term, it's about habits. And
we're going to have to continue this conversation. We will definitely have you back in again. It's been an absolute pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had a great hour with some amazing wisdom from the CEO of Pathway Group, Mr. Safraz Ali. We had to cut him short, unfortunately, but we will definitely have him back to share more wisdom with us. Keep tuned in. Follow our social media channels. We are on Facebook, ZMC Network. We are on Instagram, hashtag ZMC Network, and on Twitter, ZMC Network. If you are a business owner or if you are a member of the community and would like to appear on the show, please drop us a message on one of our social media channels. We will be delighted to have you here. That's all for this week. Keep tuned and see you next week.